Nick, on the first try when you saw it in theaters, were you like me, where you felt like, without giving your thoughts on the movie, just did you feel like I need to watch this again?
Yes, because obviously, and this is really with any movie, but especially a psychological thriller like this one, you are going to miss things.
Absolutely.
You're going to keep looking around. You may miss because you're not paying attention to what the actors are saying or the actors are saying. You're going to miss what they're saying that could actually be pivotal to the plot for the ending to make sense to you. So, yeah, you watch it a second time, everything starts coming together. You may catch more stuff. I guarantee you, I'll watch it a third time. I'm probably going to catch absolutely everything else that I missed.
Yeah, with any kind of mystery, a good mystery leaves clues throughout so that on the second or third viewing, you actually can go back and be like, oh, now that makes sense now. Now that clue makes sense. You pick up on it. So this is a well-done mystery, and there's bad mysteries where even on the second or third time, nothing makes sense. So this is refreshing to have a slow burn that has a little bit of rewatchability to it. Should we go over the cast real quick?
So the cast...
Now listen, folks, brace yourself. This is quite the large cast list. Brace yourself, grab some coffee, some chicken nuggets. It's going to be quite a while before we get past the cast list. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. So the cast involves Rebecca Hall as Beth. I don't need to mention anyone else.
That's it. Rebecca Hall, man. I'll tell you what. I mean... Hey, listen, she does the job of 5 actresses, in my opinion.
But she kind of has to. She's the only one in this movie for the most part.
Like, if you're saying this movie has a good cast, we're talking about one person. So that says a lot. Like, yeah, it was well casted, great performances. No, one performance only, one great performance. But, I mean, if I think of the biggest carry jobs of a movie where one person had to carry the film on their back, maybe Scarface with Al Pacino or...
Anything with Al Pacino.
Man.
What are you talking about? Oh!
And let me say, too, like, I'm a fan of Rebecca Hall. I've seen her in a couple things before this. For me, most notably, The Town with Ben Affleck was a good crime heist movie. Mm-hmm. And she was great in that. So she's definitely one of the more underrated actresses, I would say. And this movie's proof of that.
I would have to say she's underrated because, to be honest with you, until this movie, I didn't know who she was.
I don't think her name is well known, but the face maybe you can recognize from something. I think she does more like kind of more independent dramas and stuff.
Yeah. Probably. That's probably why I don't really know her. Obviously, I watch either action or horror. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it because I'll be honest, before watching it, I didn't even read the plot summary or anything. So I didn't know what this movie was about. I tried to go in as blind as possible. I didn't watch the trailer beforehand, anything. As this movie starts, it's going to take me a while to really know what the hell is going on. A long while, especially on the first viewing.
Yeah, but if you watch the trailer, it just looks like a normal ghost haunting movie. The opening scene is we're looking at this we're pretty much getting a whole run through of our setting, this house. This house is where for the most part, minus 2 scenes, this is where the movie takes place in the entire time.
It's a beautiful house.
The beautiful house. It's a little disheveled, and then you see our main actress, Rebecca Hall, coming to the door wearing a black dress, talking to a random woman who we're never going to see throughout the rest of the movie.
Yep.
And you find out her husband has just died via suicide.
Wow. Yep.
I will also warn people, if you have an issue with grief, probably best not to watch this movie. This movie will not help you overcome your own grief.
Yes, this movie is very dark, and no matter what we say, good or bad about it, I'm going to say right now, it's not the most fun movie.
No, it's not a fun movie at all.
But yeah, so a husband commits suicide, and this is obviously Rebecca Hall, our main character, so we're going to follow her and this house pretty much for the next
this first night, I will say this, stuff somewhat happens. You hear a knock on the door, she goes to check it. Now this I missed on the first viewing. So she apparently sees something and runs and shoves open a door and sees nothing in the background. If you actually pay attention to that door before she does that.
Be careful with your words. See nothing in the background. Are you doing what the movie does, where every mention of the word nothing has to be double analyzed?
In a sense. Anyway.
I refuse for you to use the word nothing in this podcast, all right?
Well, too bad.
Unless it's relevant to the plot, all right?
It kind of is, because it's technically the first time you see our antagonist.
Okay.
She turns her. So if you pay attention to the door, you see a figure, a shape. And the reason I must have missed
Michael Myers.
Very possible. He was known as the Shape before he actually got a name.
That's what I said.
In a sense. I mean, he's always had a name.
He's still called the Shape by Hardcore fans.
Yeah, but anyway, you look at this door and you see what looks like a silhouette of a figure, and it just turns and looks at her. She shoves the door open, and with lack of better words, there is nothing behind that door.
Oh my God. I can tell where this podcast is going. All right, folks, spoilers ahead, but I'm sure you've already seen the movie, so it's tricky to say should we spoil or not, but the word nothing, obviously, we're talking about that because it actually means something. It's not exactly nothing.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the movie and you still want to just listen to the podcast because you don't feel like watching an hour and a half long movie, we're going to refuse to let y'all know what the antagonist's name is until the end. Anyway.
Yeah, and listen, it's got to be done. Now, I would say this, though. I'm surprised that she decided to stay in the house so soon after her husband died. I know he didn't die in the house, per se, but that's going to be a trigger for all her stuff, basically.
Yeah,
I would go stay with her friend maybe from the outset. So I don't know.
Yeah, stay with her friend, only go back to the house to pack stuff up because she is in the process of moving. She wants to get out of that house.
Yeah, I would think that if you're in the house where you and your husband lived, okay, if we take the route that maybe there's something mentally is going on with her, right? That she is mentally seeing things. And let's go with that theory for a second. The setup is perfect. Like, she's in the house immediately after her husband died. That's probably when you're going to start seeing shit or you're going to lose your mind. So if it is mental, this could have been avoided by a stay at the Motel 6 down the road, my friend. And you know what? They would leave the lights on for her, and there might be free HBO.
So in the next morning, she sees footprints on the dock. So she travels down the dock. Here's a gunshot. That gunshot is probably the only jump scare for me.
What?
In the whole movie.
That was not a jump scare.
It was a random noise that happened out of nowhere. And to be honest, if people jumped at that, it's because it was a loud noise. And it still doesn't classify as a false scare because it's something that we should honestly kind of fear for her due to knowing exactly what happened to her husband.
I think that's a connection that makes it critical, is that her husband shot himself.
Yes.
So hearing a gunshot is triggering, and
the thing
double meaning
is,
of that. But that area looks like it could be an area where someone might be in the woods hunting. Yeah,
which is her first guess, because when the gunshot happens, a bunch of birds fly out of the trees.
Yeah.
So there has to be a physical gunshot at that point.
Now, I don't want to skip ahead too much, but
we got to meet Claire. She's still an integral part of the cast, even though she's only in like 3 scenes.
Claire is her friend.
Yes.
I thought at first that was her sister, but
Nope.
it's her friend.
It's her friend.
Okay.
Claire and Beth are friends. They're both teachers actually they didn't mention if it's a high school or a middle school. Either way, they're teachers at a school, and we meet she was named. Her name was Becky, but I'm gonna call her Karen because she comes in there going to do the Karen thing. She goes in to talk to her about why her son got a C in the class instead of, and the teacher's like, you know what, you're right, I'll just go ahead and give him a B. Well, that's not what I wanted. Well, Beth just goes into why she was not in the school the day her precious Hunter.
You know, this scene, I felt secondhand embarrassment for the mother here because she was called out, basically. She came to get the grade changed.
But she kept saying she didn't want that, and the teacher's like, well, and Beth's like, well, what the hell do you want? I have personal issues. Well, so did we. And that's when Beth just unloaded on her.
Listen, I hate to say, but I could have used a teacher in high school who was grieving, who would have changed my grades, because at one point she offers an A. And the mom's like, the B is fine.
Right.
No, it's Christmas. Take the A. What are you doing?
It's not Christmas, it's summer.
For her, it's an early Christmas present. You offered your son an A. To get a C to an A, she would have went home happy. She'd be like, oh my goodness, that worked much better than I expected. I got an A. But she's like, the B is fine. I'm like, hey, you could add the A.
B it is. Click.
Now, what I want to ask, though, is because, to go back to the gunshot, we do meet her neighbor.
Yes, Mel.
So she asked Mel, did you hear the gunshot? And Mel's like, no. Now, that's the first hint. If you're on the side of this is in your head, that side of the theory, then nobody else heard the gunshot, only she heard it. So was the gunshot real, or was that something she imagined?
Well, the only other thing I got is, look where they live. So to be honest with you, for the most part, Mel probably didn't even pay attention to actually hearing it because he hears so many gunshots.
Yeah.
He's probably just tuned out of it.
Yeah.
Her, because of what happened, she's going to hear every single gunshot, whether real or, as you mentioned, possibly fictional. But still, she's going to hear every single gunshot because of what her grieving is going to do to her.
Yeah. The only thing with that is, like I said, they don't, from Mel's standpoint, I guess they are pretty casual about it, but we don't know if there's gunshots there all the time or how often they hear a gunshot. So it's hard to say, like, how unique it was for her to hear a gunshot. If you hear gunshots all the time, then obviously this one's not going to be a big deal. But if it's like a gunshot for the first time like a year, then you're like, hey, we don't normally hear gunshots, and she could overreact. But
yeah, but notice how he wasn't 100% dismissive of it because,
yes,
I mean, granted, again, it could be because of what just happened, or it's because they live out in the middle of a lake,
yeah,
and people go hunting at lakes, so he's probably heard enough gunshots to just tune it out.
And he could have been, you're asking one person, so he could have been asleep.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been in the shower. He could have been not paying attention. So if they were in the suburbs and she asked 5 of her neighbors to hear a gunshot and they all said no, then it'd be like, oh my God, there was no gunshot.
Right.
But at this point, you can't establish if there was a gunshot or not. So, but if you want to side on the theory side of that, this is in her head, I'm looking for in certain things like what evidence is there that stuff actually happened in the world around her, basically.
So now we get our second night, which again, really nothing 100% happens, but the radio just magically turns on.
And let me say, whatever is haunting her has great taste in music. I'm like, there's suspenseful. I'm like, make a note to download that song.
Well, I do know that for the most part, this movie is trying to make you think that it is possibly her husband haunting her.
100%.
Because that was one thing I watched on the, I figured out on the trailer. As I'm watching it, they mentioned the suicide. They read the letter on the trailer. And I'm just sitting there thinking, so did the husband kill himself to then haunt her? Because I honestly thought the husband was the major villain of this movie.
Well, the most common story here, the most, let's say, tropish, easy thing to do would be you would think just the husband is haunting her.
Yeah,
that makes sense,
and that's what the trailer is trying to tell you. Granted, the trailer also doesn't want to obviously give away the true villain because then there's no twist to the movie.
That's true. But they definitely play with the idea early on that it is her husband.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder if the director or the writer of this movie automatically knew what he was doing for it, or was he making a traditional haunting movie and then said, no, this has been done multiple times, let's change it to this.
Yes, because her husband haunting her doesn't seem like a big threat, because why would the husband want to harm her?
Right. We don't know anything about the husband.
From the home video she watches, the husband seems normal and innocent enough. Nothing in the home video she watches makes the husband look suspect, although as the movie goes on, his actions start to become more and more suspect.
So now we get the bar scene where we get to find out what's in the contents of his suicide note. You were right.
A whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. You were right. Nothing is after you. You are safe.
Ooh,
so
I got to say, when I watched this scene the first time, I was just like,
okay,
that makes no sense at all. I was like, this is the worst suicide note ever.
Right.
Who would write that as their last thing?
Now, granted, this scene, I think, was supposed to try and make it a little lighthearted with the one of the teachers like, oh, she keeps it in her purse. And, of course, you got the other guy teachers just uncomfortable because he's like,
yeah.
ugh.
I feel like they did. They're trying to have a fun night out at the bar, and that she's bringing all this tension
Right.
and grief, and they're just like, check, please.
Oh, yeah, and I'm going to assume Beth is a very talkative drunk.
She flat out admits, like, hey, my house is being haunted. I believe in ghosts. She
says she doesn't believe in ghosts, but she's pretty sure something's in her house.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually in most movies, the character would, like, hide her situation from her friends. But she's like, yeah, pretty matter of fact about it, like, I think something's going on in my house. So. Which might indicate, go to the Motel 6.
Right.
Stop being so loyal to this damn house.
Right, but yeah, the first time you watch this, it seems like a random letter that may or may not play a big part in the movie. So most people are going to forget it on their first watch.
Well, at first, at the end of that scene, she actually says, "No, I'm lying. There's no note." And then in the next scene, when she's talking to her friend, then she says, "No, there was a note." So she tries to kind of like cover it up after they sees the reaction, but then she admits there was a note.
No, she says, "I'm lying," and he goes, "Oh," she goes, "No, not about the note. About the fact that I know what he's talking about."
Oh, wait. No, you're right. You're correct. That's true. Yeah, she says she knows what the note is about.
Yeah, because come to find out, Beth had actually died for a few minutes before. And she said that, people kept asking her what's on the other side, and she just said nothing. There was nothing on the other side. I lied to make people feel better about it, but at the end of the day, it was all tunnel and no light.
Now, this is maybe too much because the fact that she says nothing here, I know they want to sprinkle that throughout the movie, but this is a little bit too much in this scene. The fact that she says that, now we have to be like, nothing, huh?
Yeah, but the one thing I'm getting at is,
it works in certain scenes where like, oh, double meaning.
So
There's no double meaning.
First watch note can be seen more as a innocent suicide note, sort of, as innocent as a suicide note can be. On the second watch, my question was, why did he say she is safe? If this villain is after her, why?
So it actually says, nothing is after you, you are safe.
Yes. On the second watch, you realize the note gives away the plot of the movie.
Yeah, but you're right, from the husband's perspective. And by the way, I don't think too much of the husband based on what he does, but this note especially. What possessed him to write the most confusing note ever? But even the weird context we're going to get, yes, nothing is after you. So
why say she's safe? At this point, it should be leave.
Without the double meaning, in the most basic sense, it makes sense. Oh, nothing is after me. Like, nothing's coming after me, so that means that I'm safe. But when you know the hidden meaning, then you're like, wait, huh?
Yeah, because to be honest, the first watch we got is, if this really is in her head, that means that throughout the time we don't see on the movie, she's probably a paranoid person.
Yeah.
And he's just using this as a way to show her, hey, nothing's coming after you. You're safe. And I'm going to show you that you don't need that. With you being alone, you're going to see that you're not in danger.
So the movie's actually fucking with us because, yeah, he's not doing the double meaning thing. He's just saying, he's trying to tell her literally, hey, nothing's after you. You're safe. But we know on the second watch, we're looking at like, oh, he's talking about the actual nothing.
Right.
But I think you're right. The note makes more sense if he's just like trying to ease her.
If this was more of a paranoia type movie.
He's trying to ease her worries and be like, hey, you're fine. Nothing's after you.
And to be honest,
we're taking on the second watch as nothing. Nothing is after you.
Which also makes...
But it wouldn't make sense then to follow that up with, so that means you're safe.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So, because again, at the first watch, you get this note and just thinking, okay, so is she paranoid or is there something wrong with the husband? The husband may be killing himself to save her from something he wanted to do.
Now, by the way, that note still makes sense if we go back to the theory of that everything's in her head. Then the note makes sense because the husband's just like, hey, nothing's after you, you're safe. Like, I know you've been paranoid, but you're fine, don't worry. So if it's in her head and this is all made up in her head, then that suicide note for her husband still makes sense. It makes less sense with the idea something's out there because, like I said, if nothing is after her, then how is she safe?
For Beth, she's about to get an extremely rude wake-up call.
Yes.
With absolutely everything going off at once.
My favorite scene.
Oh my gosh, this scene is very disorienting. It is very, and I can't say intimidating, but it will make your heart pound, especially the very first time you're watching the scene, because everything's going off at once. You have no idea what you're looking at, where you're going, and this is for an audience member watching it. Who knows what someone in real life would be doing in this situation?
Yeah, this scene can be heavily appreciated. You saw in theater, so you could appreciate that. But any kind of surround sound, my God.
Oh, yeah.
If your surround sound's turned up and you're just like...
Your brain is rattling.
Ho-hum-dee, good movie so far, nothing going on, and boom, you're like... Ah!
Yeah, you're just as uncomfortable as she is.
I was laid back, sitting down, I was like, oh... I'm not gonna lie. I reached for the remote, I was like, volume down! What is this?
Yeah, I couldn't do that my first watch in the theater. You know what's worse? I always choose the seats closer to the wall in case me or Casey need to get up to use the restroom.
You were like, oh, I'm out of here. I gotta use the bathroom.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, this is like they got to come up with a new word for this because like this is not a jump scare, but you're right, it's disorienting. I don't know what to call it. It's not a jump scare, but it's like because it's not a quick thing. It lasts for like
It's a disorienting scare.
It just made me uncomfortable.
That's the point of it.
I just felt what the hell.
And also, for anyone who likes the color red in moons, you get a red moon in this scene.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, cool.
Well, the red moons do make me think of the movie Insidious, though. So I did. The only thing with the red coloring is that it makes me think of Insidious too much.
Man, to be honest, a lot of people say that movie's scary. I'll watch it. I'm just like, man, it's fine. I didn't jump. I didn't get scared by the movie. It was fine to watch.
Insidious was like had the same kind of idea this movie, but it wasn't executed as well.
Right.
But it had the same kind of idea towards it as far as like a demon and stuff and all that. So.
Yep. So now so after that night's over, again, she wakes up not where she does wake up where she fell asleep, but she ended up going on this whole adventure type deal and then runs through her living room door, waking herself up and seeing that the door is wide open.
Now, is this where she found the girls in the back running and jumping? And again, on the first view, and within the context of the first viewing, you're just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, because at this point, you still haven't... You're getting the mystery, but no answers are being given yet.
And she looks up and she sees herself or somebody in her room, basically, with her husband.
Right.
Yeah, you're getting the answers, but we don't know what the questions are. So this is like...
Well, I know what the question is. What the fuck is going on?
What the... Yeah, that's
that is literally the question you will be asking yourself.
Yep.
So now she turns on her husband's phone, because another thing we forgot to mention is she actually got a call from her husband.
Yes. Now, the voice on the phone was like a scratching noise, and they were hinting at it being Billy from Black Christmas.
Yes.
And I thought that Billy voice was about to come on, and I was about to be like, oh, this all makes sense now. Billy's behind this. All right. Well, hey.
So she turns her husband's phone on, realizing, hey, how in the world could he call me? Because his phone is right here.
I said this points to, again, the theory at this point in the movie that it's her husband doing the haunting.
Yeah. So she's going through the phones, and then she finds a couple pictures, realizing this isn't me.
Yes, there's a girl in the library who looks like her, but she identifies that, hey, that's not my shirt. I don't own that. I don't own those clothes. So
yep, and then she goes further into the phone and finding a bunch of other girls that looks like her, but is not quite. Except for one girl that I'm pretty sure is a heavier set girl. Like, how does that look like you?
Well, again, in the moment of the first viewing, I'm thinking the husband has a fetish for cheating on her, but cheating on her with look-alikes, girls that look as close as possible to her as possible. That's all you can gather at this point in the movie is like, oh, he's cheating with a bunch of girls who look like his wife.
Which makes me wonder, is the wife just not giving him anything? Beth is walking through the woods because she's curious because she thought she saw a house across the waterway the previous night. I
think that's fine as long as this is not Camp Crystal Lake, because if it is, that's probably Jason's shack, and you should stay away.
Luckily for her, it's not Camp Crystal Lake, but it is owned by the state, so
maybe
there should be no houses there.
Maybe it is Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh,
maybe nothing should find a different lake because Jason's pretty territorial. Right?
Yeah, but now we found the house, and it is pretty much an exact replica.
It looks like Jason's shack.
Yeah, it is.
It looks like something Jason built.
It is built in the same version of her house, but backwards. Because
quite the architect her husband was.
Yeah. So throughout the movie, we're seeing her going through these voodoo books, ways to trick and cheat demons and devils. And one way is by making pretty much a look-alike mirror version of where they're apparently living at.
Yes.
And apparently if you can do that, do it properly, it can actually trick the demon and devil to staying in that house instead of coming to your true house.
Okay, there you go. So the husband clearly had some shit going on and he put a plan in effect to try to do something to somebody
Yeah.
to hide himself and his wife. So
Yeah, exactly. Hide himself and his wife from the true villain of this movie.
I would suggest he just call the Ghostbusters, but apparently that was beyond his thinking. So
Yeah,
I'm just
that's-
saying, man.
that's because
who
when
you
this-
going to call?
When this movie was made, Van
Ghostbusters.
Wolfhard was too young still.
I just call Bill Murray. Call the original ones.
Bill Murray's too damn old.
Oh my god, they got machines to trap the ghosts. They don't need to build a damn house backwards. That's all. I'm
So
saying.
now we get to Mel's house where we find out, yes, the husband, at this point, Mel believes that the husband is cheating on his wife with other women. Though when he comes to him to ask Mel not to talk to her about it, he's covered in mud.
Yes.
And he's telling Mel's like, I have these urges and I can't stop them. I'm
Yes.
trying. I thought I broke it, but then something happened.
This sounds like when I give up chicken nuggets for a week and promise myself that I won't go back and get any. But these urges, man, they keep calling me, man. These
That's why
urges.
you have to start eating Nilbog nuggets.
You're saying those aren't addictive?
No, they're
Keep
not.
in mind, they're our sponsor now, man. We got to make them look good. Come on.
Exactly. And they're healthier. So if they are addictive, at the very least, you're going to lose weight.
All right, let's get away from the green nuggets and talk about the movie because that's for after the podcast when it's dinner time.
So now this is where I actually start really, because most of the movie being a mystery, it's enticing you, but this is where I actually start really loving how the director does some of the cinematography and all this, because
Right.
now we get this human shape emptiness mirrored perfectly through a shape in her dresser and podium like thing that makes it look like a face. Then all of a sudden it just turns to look at her.
That was crazy. That was pretty insane.
I was sitting there like, oh, whoever the director of this movie is needs to continue. Because that was probably one of the most amazing things I've seen in movies.
We should figure out who is the director.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
feel like I want to give him most of the credit for the movie, but I don't know who he is. So.
Him and Rebecca Hall definitely need all the credit for this movie. The Night House director. So director is David Bruckner.
It doesn't ring a bell, but I'm gonna make a note of that name for the future because I'll be watching this. I'll be watching this next movie.
So let's see, David Bruckner. Oh, he was also the writer of this movie.
I mean, listen, you're an amazing director. If you were an amazing writer, also, then that would be amazing. But I'm not so sure.
Okay, so he also did The Ritual.
Ooh, that makes sense.
He did the original VHS. He actually did the Siren movie, which is a spinoff from VHS.
People love VHS.
Yeah. Oh, he did VHS 94.
Didn't see that one. I've heard about that. I don't know if it's a remake or a sequel. I think it's a reboot. It's like a whole different thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you go by the lore of what Clive Barker did for Hellraiser, Kristen Cotton actually eventually becomes Pinhead herself.
So good. Props to Mr. Bruckner, as you said. At this point, I'm noticing too that the movie's standing out more for its visuals, the sound, the execution. Writing aside, you can tell the director is fully vested and is doing a great job for what he's trying to accomplish.
So now we get the Books and Melodies scene. She goes to the place where her husband's been getting these voodoo and witchcraft books.
Now, really, though, she's going to find if they have the latest Harry Potter book because
Most likely.
she wants to get her mind off her husband's death, and she felt like investing in the Harry Potter series is the way to do it. Mm-hmm. She thinks if not, she'll find Narnia or Lord of the Rings.
Or Everworld.
But while she's there, she remembers, hey, what about my whole husband ghost thing? Let me do something with that too. But really, the Harry Potter, the quest for Harry Potter books is the real motivation.
Yep, but then she sees someone that looks exactly like her. I won't lie, I honestly thought this was her fucking daughter in real life. But this girl literally looks like what Rebecca Hall as a younger woman looks like.
Yeah, so if the husband was cheating,
It'd most likely be with this chick.
if he's just cheating, which she's investigating her husband's fidelity here. Was that the word?
Infidelity.
Infidelity. This has nothing to do with the ghost thing now. She's just like, my husband's been cheating. I'm going to question this woman and find out. I'm going to question what she did with my husband and if she can point me in the direction of the Harry Potter series.
Yep. So technically this is the scene we meet Madeline. Beth makes her very uncomfortable, and then we get to Claire's house where Beth is complaining to Claire about how how much prettier and younger Madeline is, and how come her husband could do this to her. And Claire's just like, you need to shut the fuck up. He is dead. Respect your damn husband. He loved you more than anything.
Like, I like Claire, but I wish there was more to Claire, because it seems like she's only here to sometimes give us somebody for Beth to talk to. She has to communicate certain ideas sometimes, so they had to have some other character for her to be close with. But I kept thinking that Claire somehow had been cheating with the husband. Didn't you think that was gonna? I felt like that was a possibility, because
So
Claire kept being like, let it go, stop investigating, stop digging deeper. And I kept thinking, I think Claire's
probably on that footage.
afraid she's gonna find a photo of her with the husband.
So
I'm glad they didn't go there, but that kind of was like built up in a way.
Yeah, because be honest, if you've read a lot of reviews, because a few that Amelia was finding was that a lot of people are saying Claire is Beth's guardian angel throughout this movie, pretty much her voice of reason, and at the end, Claire is the one that ends up being a catalyst of giving Beth the power, the strength to do what she does at the end.
So can we call Claire something?
Yes.
Because I think that makes perfect sense if she's something.
So Madeline shows up at the house because
she found out where the Harry Potter books were, and she's bringing a copy to
Beth,
to
the real
her.
question is, of course, a very sensible question, which I'm actually very happy that this was asked. How the fuck did you know where she lived?
Yeah, that's bad.
Because most movies, they wouldn't even, they would just skirt over the fact that it's like, how did this girl know?
Well, this is in context because she's like, I didn't sleep with your husband. Like, well, you know where my damn house is. That
Right.
means you were here. What were y'all doing? Y'all were watching TV, or y'all were doing something else?
And Madeline mentioned, I was about to, and then your husband started choking me. I said, stop, and he took me home.
This is a very uncomfortable scene.
A lot of scenes in this movie is pretty
Madeline telling
uncomfortable.
this story and her wife being there and her hinting at almost rape, but then going into a weird territory. But then he was like, nah, I'm going to just take you home. The husband is a very weird character. Just, like getting all this like secondhand information about him. Like, you're like, man, this is a weird guy.
So now Beth goes to that house, the mirror house. That's what I'm going to call it. I know the movie's called Night House, so I probably should call it Night House, but I'm calling it Mirror House.
Night House is a lazy title. Mirror House is a little bit more intriguing.
Yeah, so she goes to the mirror house, and she falls through the floor where she finds, I want to say close to 8 bodies. I'm going to say 8.
Well, pretty big kill count for whoever put the bodies there, which I think we can surmise
Is the husband.
the husband, man. So you're telling me he wasn't cheating on her? Well, maybe he was, but then after cheating on her, he was then... Well, hold on. Was he just killing them, or was he like sleeping with them?
He
and
was
then
killing them. He was only killing them.
So he was meeting them with the idea of he was going to sleep with them, like getting them romantically involved, and then killing them.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is where the climax happens. She calls Claire, pretty much telling Claire, you're right, I shouldn't have investigated any further. And then instead of leaving the house, takes a shower.
Her behavior sometimes is a little bit off. She's a little bit too lax and casual about this whole ghost thing in the house.
Yep, so this is where...
It's very cleansy, though.
So this part, to be honest with you, I love the effects they do with this scene, but I am not a big fan of this scene because it makes no sense to the context.
The bathroom mirror scene.
Yeah, because I like the effects of seeing the different ripples of the invisible fingers going across her skin. Her when she presses on the back of the head, her fingers actually indent. I love the effects of there actually being a person there.
If the ghost, for example, was the husband, then I guess it would make sense that he would try to have sex with her in the bathroom.
Yeah, probably. But then she calls him by Owen, and then we just get this very deep voice. The very first time you hear this thing talk.
Who the fuck is Owen? That's what he should have said.
Close. No, that would have definitely taken it out of the movie. It's like,
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
yeah, this wasn't Robert Englund. He goes, she says Owen, and he goes, no, I'm not Owen.
I don't know whatever this thing is. This is the introduction of his voice.
Right.
I don't really like his voice that much. His voice could be a little more intimidating.
I mean,
I
this
don't know
thing
if
is,
they're going for like a scary voice per se, but
I don't think they were going for intimidating either, because
it sounds just like creeper 1-800 late night phone call voice.
yeah. But so
What are you wearing?
this is the part I do not like, is the fact that this thing can touch her. Because after this, she tries to run, and he literally grabs her and slams her into a mirror, which somehow teleports her into a mirrored version of her house again.
And this whole scene, it's basically like kind of like she is getting attacked.
Yeah.
It feels like she's getting attacked. She's in danger.
Yeah, because every time she watches her husband, because this is where you get the reveal, even though anyone who's picked up enough clues could surmise that husband killed all these chicks.
Well, let's get in the reveal because then we can actually theorize a lot more. I've been trying to skedaddle around it.
Yeah,
but
same here. But anyway, so we're seeing in a few other rooms of the husband killing all these girls. We keep getting all the different cool shots of the house being separated in the form of a face or a body shape.
I said it before, but man, if they had let him do the Nightmare remake or any Elm Street movie, that would have been a treat because this is the kind of stuff you'd want to see like in like Freddy's Dream World.
Oh yeah,
and we don't get
and
that.
then she gets to where the Nothing has then possessed, taken the form of her husband. So now we get a physical form to look at.
And now we get by far the most explanation of anything that we're going to get in this movie.
Right.
In this scene, so.
And she even says very proudly, "My husband tricked you." And he goes, "Yeah, for a while."
I don't like that because this Nothing, as we're going to call him, as he calls himself, I guess as the movie calls him. He was tricked by how many girls? I don't understand.
So this is where I have the theory that when he says for a while, before he did the killing, he obviously had to build this mirror house. He did everything as the book said to trick them into making them think they're in this location instead of here. So when he grabbed the girls, he took them to that location. But what I think happened is he tricked them with the very first one. And then when the Nothing came back, I'm pretty sure he was hoping that it would work again, but it wasn't. So he ended up killing more girls than he needed to.
I want to think that, but the movie leaves an open interpretation, and it could be that like 5 years went by and Nothing was like finally like he was like, oh, don't. Oh, wait. Hey, you tricked me.
Yeah, but to be honest with
you
you,
got me. It sounds like he got him good. All right?
yeah, but if you think of it in that context, then the Nothing is a very
incompetent asshole.
yeah. But if you think of it in the first one, then that means the other, since I said 8 people, the other 7 victims most likely took place in a very close proximity of time.
Oh yeah, I mean, he probably had to be feeding girls to Nothing once a month to kind of keep off the back. But my thing is, if Nothing is focused on getting the one girl, it's like after the first girl, wouldn't the second one be like, hey?
Well, after that, then yeah, he's going.
Wouldn't Nothing even question the idea of like, hey, why are
you still killing all these girls when I'm after this one?
I do think that's bad writing there. It's just it's left in a. I know it's open interpretation, and by not over explaining, they leave it open to like being like, hey, we didn't say anything really, we didn't explain anything, so you can't say it's a plot hole. But that just seems
why
like unexplainable.
My theory goes with the other deaths. Did not trick him, but again, at the moment, apparently Nothing can't kill her, even though we just saw that the Nothing can physically harm her, which makes no damn sense to me.
But I think the movie still works then if you just say, hey, I killed one girl, and
It worked for a time.
but then it didn't work, and I had to kill myself. Like really, the movie makes it like all those girls died for no reason at all. Like,
yeah.
My God, 8 girls for no
that's
reason.
That's where
Jesus.
the other theory me and you were having is that Madeline is not a living person. Me personally, with my theory in play, I think Madeline was the very first victim.
Because in the library, she actually she called for help to the librarian who was at the front desk.
Not even 10 feet away.
And the guy never shows up. And think about any guy who has an employee call for help with a panicked voice,
especially a female employee.
Yes,
and a guy that looks like the way this guy did.
Now again, it works both ways. She's a ghost, or again, if everything's in
her head,
she's just imagining her, the whole thing. And Madeline did act weird when she's walking to her car and driving away. She did kind of seem off, like she was probably driving back to the fucking graveyard.
Right. And to be honest with you, when I was thinking there was going to be something in like the back of the car when Madeline did that little wave. No, there was nothing back there.
It was just very like ominous though. She got in her car, the camera's like lingering, like the camera's watching her in
As
a weird
if
way.
something should be coming up.
Like you're kind of looking like, why are we following her to her car? You realize, okay, Beth's just watching her, but she does seem off. She seems like the whole time she seems off. So anyways, nothing of course in that scene with the husband explaining basically that, hey, you know, when she had died or almost died, Beth had almost died, that, you know, nothing had gotten a taste of her and almost of her.
So what I think it is nothing is possessive. No, because when she died, she was now part of the nothing. And when she was brought back to life, the nothing's like, oh, hell no, you don't take my stuff away from me.
It's that or damn near he's in love with her.
Now, so, again,
He wants to reunite with her in the nothing world, but it seems like he's obsessed with her, not necessarily like a, hey, come back here. It's not a
you belong to me kind of deal. But it just
it felt like a like I'm attached to you and I must have you. I must have you. It was almost like the damn like what's this like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer? It's like
Lothos.
Lothos having to have Buffy. It felt like that.
Yeah, but it's still, for this type of character, it wouldn't make sense. Why would something like this feel love?
I know, but none of it makes sense because think about it. That means that every time somebody almost died and came back to life, that nothing would always form this attachment to that person. But this feels like a big attachment. He's like spending the rest of his nothing days trying to get her, basically. So,
And to be honest, that's still a possibility he does with everyone that tries to get away. Because with this being,
maybe, but he's investing a lot of time in her. So.
well, again, with this kind of character, it doesn't say that there's only one thing. It can still, if it's a real thing, can spread out between all the other ones that got away from it.
Nothing itself could be a species of nothingness.
Yes,
and they're all at different lakes and all that. But this movie underexplains a lot, and I don't think we'll ever get a concrete answer on that. But the point you made earlier, though, we didn't actually finish this point about why you didn't like the mirror scene because he touches her. And your point was you didn't like that because what does that mean?
Because throughout the movie he's trying to pretty much get her, especially this ending scene. This ending scene is definitely showing why I didn't care for it. The ending scene, he's trying to get her to kill herself, which I'm fine with because that shows okay, nothing can't kill her, but in an earlier scene, the nothing can still harm her.
Yes.
How can it harm her but not be able to kill her? That part makes no sense to me.
Well, a very hard headshot to the mirror may actually kill her.
Exactly.
There was danger of like brain damage, and she just dies there. So
exactly. So again, if the nothing is able to touch her, then the nothing's able to kill her. Why does he need her to kill herself? That's why I don't like the mirror scene. If it left the mirror scene alone to the point where he could not touch her, but she could touch him, but he couldn't touch her. That part would make more sense to me with why he's trying to get her to kill herself.
I thought maybe, again, they could have added this in the story, but maybe there was something where she only will be reunited with him, or the nothing world, whatever like that. It's all contingent on her killing herself. Like nothing has to get her to actually kill herself. If she dies by some other means, then that doesn't work for nothing. He needs her. It seems like he needs her to kill herself. Because you're right. You bash your head in the mirror, just finish the job and kill her, and then you're reunited. But he's really committed to like, I'm gonna convince you to kill yourself.
Which I
don't know why, but
pretty much tells me that he can't physically kill her, and the mirror scene makes no sense to that.
You shouldn't actually have him touch her then.
Exactly.
Because what was that about then? Why is he slamming her head against the mirror and shit? So.
Exactly. At that point, you'd think that Nothing's plan would be to continue playing the facade of her husband until he was finally able to convince her to kill herself.
And I'm telling you, this whole end scene to me it shows again nothing. Whatever his plan is, he seems like a fucking idiot. It's like this whole boat scene. I'm gonna pretend to be your husband and sit here in the boat with you, and I'm gonna talk you into shooting yourself in the head. It didn't work, man. I mean, nothing. What are you doing, man? I mean, you couldn't do one thing right. Nothing. Your whole life mission is to kill her, and you couldn't do it.
Claire. So after the whole night happens, Claire arrives at the house, realizes the gun is gone and the boat is gone.
Yes.
So she runs out to the dock, and she sees Claire in the boat. Now, or Beth in the boat. So I did not expect Claire to do what she does. Claire literally jumps in the water,
Yes.
swims to the boat, and now obviously Beth still had to have the strength herself to not pull that trigger. But I get the feeling if it wasn't for Claire's voice breaking through the veil, if you want to call it that Beth probably would have actually done it.
I don't know. I paid attention to that on the second and third viewing, and like they could have done a better job of like, okay, like having her really have the gun to where she's about to shoot herself, and then she hears Claire's voice. But the way they filmed it in this particular scene, they do have her kind of like
Start lowering the gun
and
before.
then hear Claire's voice. It almost like they filmed a way where it was like 5 seconds too early for her to start lowering it. It sounds like the way they showed it was almost like she made her decision not to do it, and then it was like reinforced by Claire's voice, like bring her more back to reality. But they made a point to be like, okay, she's thought about it, and
She's deciding not to do it herself, but there's still.
and maybe that works better character wise than just I'm gonna do it. Oh, but I hear my friend's voice.
Yeah, because
But-
that shows Beth has the strength to withstand the nothing. The only problem is maybe she couldn't get out of that dream state or the nothing world without Claire's interference.
Yeah, once Claire's like running towards him, all that, nothing's in the boat. Like, oh shit.
No, he's just sitting there smiling the whole damn time.
He's like, all my this perfect red moon setting that I set here and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
because to be honest, nothing doesn't. That's another cool shot though in the clouds with the two moons looking like eyes and the clouds, the way the clouds form the shape of a face. That's a pretty cool shot.
So not only Claire but Claire and the neighbor are back,
Yep.
and they've brought Beth back to the land
And
dock area.
Mel looks at the boat, and you still actually can see the silhouette of the nothing in that boat.
I did see that on today's viewing, yes, and
I did not catch that on my first viewing.
although I do think Mel didn't see anything because he says specifically nothing's there, and he doesn't know to be using the double meaning. He doesn't know to
Right.
be saying that. He's just saying nothing. But then Beth is like, she's like, that's right. Nothing is there.
But-
And she's talking about the actual nothing.
Right, she's talking about, but when Mel looks up, and to be honest, he does an eye squint almost as if he thinks he sees something.
That's because he sees her staring so hard. He's like, am I missing something? He's trying to find something. But then he's like, nah, she's fucking crazy. But I did see, they did have the
silhouette.
It's still like shadow all the way across the water, basically reaching out. Which, from that perspective, the seeing nothing there is kind of like, all right, well, if we're not getting a sequel and that's the ending, it's kind of like, I mean, is she just screwed for the rest of her life? Like what's to stop nothing from coming back the next night? I just hope that Beth at least moves out of that house and goes. I think the problem will be solved. If she just goes and stays somewhere else.
Maybe lives with
Then
Claire.
some of this nothing connection it followed her from wherever, but I think it was lodged into this house too. So yeah, and when Claire's around, she seems to be better off. It seems.
Yeah. So
I'd like to see more on the husband. There's the husband story and his whole murder plot. That itself would have been a good movie to see the husband going through killing 8 girls, him figuring out he has to do this to satisfy nothing.
the only problem is to be honest, without this movie, the whole thing would have been just a generic slasher almost with a twist in that would make no sense.
True.
Now that we get this part of the story, if they went ahead and made that movie, it would be, they obviously make it more action packed.
Well, I don't anticipate a sequel, but you could have, let's call him nothing, follow a new girl, a new person.
That
and
also
you see
escaped
this,
him.
You see this story play out again, basically.
Yeah, to be honest, this movie doesn't need a sequel.
No, I don't think it'll be a sequel. This
No,
this doesn't feel like a franchise.
No,
at all.
I do agree with you that if they did anything, they should do a prequel about the husband doing the murders, how the nothing found them, got a hold of the husband pretty much, started messing with his mind to get him to actually do the killings.
The problem with the prequel with the husband is, I don't think Rebecca Hall would want to come back for it. Because
Probably not.
if it's the husband, she still has to be there.
Yeah.
Right? And she wouldn't want to come back and do that story from the husband's perspective.
That's probably not
Because and also for us, there's really no new information, I guess.
Yeah, because we already know at this point it's just money in their pockets, and we get to see the husband
The movie,
actually
the
give
movie
us
would
character.
movie would end with him killing himself, and then
then it goes into this one.
Yeah, I mean, if they did that, the only way that works is basically if you'd have to watch that one first and then watch this.
Yeah.
This would have to be the official sequel to that, and then it would make sense. But
So overall thoughts for me, character, and no, I'm not using plural. Character is definitely great with this. Rebecca Hall does an amazing job because, to be honest, without Rebecca Hall or David Bruckner as a director doing these amazing silhouette shots of this house, it actually makes the movie definitely worth watching. It is amazing, and if you watch the movie, and obviously the first viewing you're gonna miss stuff, second viewing you're gonna see more. I haven't watched it a third time. I don't know if you picked up anything else the third watch, but overall, for the music or lack thereof is actually makes the scare scenes a little bit more scary, because now you don't have really any music to go off of when something's going to happen at this point or this point. So overall, I'm actually going to give this movie a 3. Yeah, I'm giving this movie a 3. It is not a fun movie, but it is definitely a good movie to watch, for first 3 times. Rewatchability really isn't there, but with Rebecca Hall and David Bruckner, definitely makes this movie worth the 3 times you're going to watch it.
3 stars for 3 times watching it.
Yes.
I pretty much agree with everything you said. Major props to Rebecca Hall and the director. I think that the script is kind of weak, but I think they elevate it to basically a 3-star movie with her performance, his directing. The story is really original. I'll give it that. It's out there. I mean,
I hate to throw in your final thoughts, but I'm about to end your world. This ain't an original villain.
What?
This ain't an original story.
No?
In Supernatural.
Oh my God. You know what? Let me give my final thoughts, all right? You're not allowed to interject. You know what I was going to say, actually? I was going to say that if you took away Rebecca Hall and you took away this director, what this movie would be, it's just an episode of Supernatural. And that's the most damning diss I can give it to it, so, by the way. But that said, whatever it is, this movie has some great scenes. It's slow burn, so you got to be in the mood for a slow burn. You have to expect that this is not going to have some kind of body count or like slasher death scenes. This is definitely slow burn, psychological. So if that's your thing, this is going to be high up there for you. I'll give it 3 stars. I actually probably would give it higher than 3 stars if it had a better script and if there's more rewatchability. This movie's all about the mystery and the clues. So for the first 3 viewings, you'll get something out of it because you'll pick up on different things. But having watched it 3 times, I would only watch it again if I was watching it with somebody who hadn't seen it, because then I can watch their reaction and see if they're picking up on the clues. But for me, yeah, there's no fun factor, so it's not like I'm going to go back and be like, oh, let me look up that death scene on YouTube, or let me look up, whatever. So the lack of rewatchability keeps it from being higher than 3 stars. But I'll stick with 3 stars because on the first 2 or 3 viewings, you can get a lot out of it.
But yeah, as for what I was saying, in season 12, season 13, after Castiel dies, you see him come to in a completely black space. When a version of himself shows up, really pissed off, Castiel's like, well, what are you? I'm what came before God, and you woke me the fuck up. Damn. Get out of here. You're done in the nothing. Bye.
Wow.
Oh, and then they sent Death into the nothing, where the nothing was so pissed off it exploded her.
So one day, long ahead in the future, I will watch an episode of Supernatural. But what Nick has told me on this podcast about the show has made me push that day further into the future. There's no plans during this decade. So we got to get to like 2030 and maybe I'll reconsider, but I've made up my mind for the next 10 years. And,
so you will watch Supernatural. Because if you decide to do fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, you, sir, is doing Supernatural.
We're going to definitely dive into the TV shows in the future, and way below on the list is going to be Supernatural because that's 15 seasons. I mean, you guys want us to talk about something that has like maybe 1 or 2 seasons, not 15. So.
No, we can do one season, and then we'll do a bunch of other stuff. Then we'll do season 2, bunch of other stuff. You know, we
It's time that I go get some nuggets because all this podcasting makes me got hungry.
Seriously.
Nick's feeling the same way probably too.
No, I had Chinese. I had Chinese nuggets.
Oh, well, all right. Well, I'm going to go get my regular...
McDonald's nuggets.
I think I prefer Wendy's nuggets, though. I got to say.
Yeah, I prefer McDonald's. Anyway, you all... Everyone,
Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame.
So everyone knows where this is going. Y'all don't have to go home, but go play a game. And then play a video game while listening to our podcast because you don't need the video on. You just need audio. So play a game you don't need to pay attention to. And take care. Godspeed.